Hello Finxters. In this video we will review Python online notebook options, what they are, how they operate, and we will review a few of them to give you an idea of what kind of services they offer. So what are some of the ways we can run Python? Well, of course you can install and run Python on your own machine. You could install and run, use Jupyter Notebooks on your own machine, and we'll review that a little bit. You could also use a data science platform like Anaconda on your own machine to set up either of the above situations. Anaconda makes some of the installation a little bit easier and helps resolve dependencies. You can also, if you want to use something online, if you want to be able to do programming anywhere, you can use some of the online Python shells or interpreters, and we'll briefly look at that. But the main thing that we want to look at here is you can use online Jupyter Notebook-like services, and we'll go over that in some more detail shortly. As mentioned, if you wanted to use Python online, if you wanted to use Python anywhere, even without your own machine, you could use some of the online Python shells or interpreters, and here's an example: python.org/shell, and it starts up a shell window, and we'll go ahead and try a little programming here. So you can see obviously this operates just like a Python shell. Here's another example: online-python.com. And this operates more like editing a file and then running it, editing a script and then running it. And as you can see, when starting out, there's already in this case, there's already a little program there, and we can go ahead and run that. So that's just like running the Python interpreter. So these online shells and interpreters are very useful, but they're not very powerful. So they're very useful for learning and running Python anywhere, but they're limited in how much resources they can use and how powerful the processing is. So again, we're going to focus on online Jupyter Notebook-like services. But before we do that, let's review Jupyter Notebook to see what that's like. If you're used to programming in Python shell, or more frequently Python interpreter, the Jupyter Notebook is a little bit of a different interface. It displays in a web browser, which is obviously something that just about everyone has and most people are familiar with. Jupyter Notebooks resemble math or science textbooks. Think back to your math or science textbooks in school. You would have equations on the page with text mixed within describing the equations and how to understand them. In the case of the Jupyter Notebook, the equation portion is actually runnable code. So consequently, in effect, these notebooks can be used kind of like a lab notebook, where the text portion may be information describing your thinking and what kind of tests you're doing, what data you're using, and the equations and code can actually be run to actually do experiments on the data and in the analysis. Now let's have a look at a Jupyter Notebook to see what they're like. We will be running Jupyter Notebook on my system. So we type the command Jupyter Notebook to start it up. And here's the initial display showing file structure on my computer, and we'll go ahead and create a new notebook using Python 3 as our interpreter. And here's what a Jupyter Notebook looks like. Information is entered in these fields called cells. These are essentially fields where you enter either your text data, text information, or you put in your program code. So first we will go ahead and put in some text data. Now this cell is actually set to code. We're going to change it to Markdown. So Markdown is text that can use special codes to make very pleasant formatting. So you can make really nice documents using this. So we'll go ahead and execute this cell. And it's created this text. We're not doing any fancy formatting here. We're just using basic text for this demonstration. And now we'll do a cell with code. And we'll run the code. So these notebooks are well designed for communicating data analysis. You can create documents that are very nice looking. This is a very basic example, but you can get very nice looking documents that communicate data analysis that you've done and even demonstrate the data analysis through working code. So these can be very effective for communicating data analysis to others and even allowing them to try out the analysis themselves. Okay, so this is very nice. You can make very nice documents that very efficiently communicate data analysis. So why would you want to do this online? Well, there are a number of advantages to using online Jupyter Notebook services. One, of course, is you can run Python anywhere you have a computer and online connection. These services also have all the data analysis and machine learning modules provided. So all you have to do is in your code say import module. So if you want to import pandas, just say import pandas, and there it's in your code. These services also typically provide GPUs, and this can be very important for machine learning. I have used these services to run deep learning applications, and I've had instances where I was training deep neural networks to do image classification, and using a normal CPU it would take 40 to 50 minutes, and using a GPU would take 2 to 3 minutes. So using the parallel processing power of his GPU is very important, and typically these services provide that. And another advantage is they manage the system so you don't have to. Instead of messing around with making sure all the packages that you need are installed, making sure that you have a sufficiently capable computer, etc., instead you have a system that you know is configured for very good processing capability, and it also has all the packages that you need ready to go. So for the very minimal, simple effort of simply registering with one of these services and using it, you have access to world-class processing capability with all the data analysis or machine learning tools that you could need. So let's have a look at some of these online Jupyter Notebook services. First up, we will look at Google Colaboratory. And we go to colab.research.google.com. And one of the first things to pop out is a list of some training documents, some training notebooks that can be used to learn some of the features of the system, or learning data analysis, or machine learning. So here's a list of some of the features. There's an overview of collaboratory features. There's a markdown guide, how to do charts, things like that. So like I said, one of the first things to pop up is a list of training notebooks that you can use. We'll go ahead and cancel this for now. And as you can see, the first thing we have opened already is one of the training documents. We're going to go ahead and create a new notebook. And here is the what should be by now a familiar interface. Here's the cell where you enter your text or code. And we will go ahead and enter a little bit of code. Oops, excuse me. And we'll go ahead and run it. And it's operating like a Jupyter Notebook. Now, strictly speaking, the interface is slightly different than traditional Jupyter Notebooks. For example, some of the keystroke shortcuts are different, but by and large, if you're familiar with Jupyter Notebook, this will be a familiar interface that you'll take to very quickly. By the way, those keystrokes are customizable so that you can set it up more the way you like. If we go to Tools, Keyboard Shortcuts, and it allows you to make some changes to it. Several versions, Default, Vim, Classic, right down to, I believe, making individual keyboard shortcut changes. The documents here are traditional Jupyter Notebook documents. So they're actual notebook files that are saving on your Google Drive. You can see the extension is IPYNB, that is IPython Notebook. So these are standard notebook format. So you can actually save these documents, download them, and run them on a classic Jupyter Notebook on your computer or somebody else's computer. So you can share them that way. As mentioned, these documents are saved to your Google Drive. You can also save them to GitHub, or like I mentioned, they can also be downloaded and used elsewhere. We'll go ahead and add another code cell here. Data science and machine learning packages are available and can be added by simply using the import command. So if we want to use pandas, we can say import pandas. And as you can see, it does some code filling suggestions, code completion suggestions. And just like that, pandas has been included. The pandas module has been included in our coding now. CoLab does also support GPUs. We'll go up here to the runtime menu item and change runtime type. And right now we don't have a hardware accelerator running. We're using a normal CPU. And we can choose no GPU or GPU or TPU. So we can do hardware accelerators on Google CoLab. One other thing I forgot to mention when talking about Jupyter Notebooks is they support a module called IPy widgets, which adds a bunch of GUI elements to your notebooks. So things like buttons, sliders, drop-down menus, things like that, GUI elements can be added to your Jupyter Notebooks, making for what looks like essentially it makes your notebook look kind of like a GUI application. If you combine that with another module called Voila, so Voila, combine IPy widgets with Voila, the code portion of your notebook will be hidden by Voila. So then your notebook actually looks like a GUI application. So if your notebook, if you're showing an application to someone who's not technically oriented and doesn't want to see the code, you can use Voila to make the code invisible, and then like I said, at that point it looks just like a GUI application. Google CoLab, since it's not the true Jupyter Notebook interface, the classic Jupyter Notebook interface, it does not support Voila. So here are CoLab's pricing tiers. They have a free option, which, reminder, it does support GPUs and TPUs. Then they have CoLab Pro at about $10 a month with faster GPUs, more memory, longer run times before the notebook times out. And CoLab Pro Plus is about $50 a month. Even faster GPUs, more memory, and longer run times, and also background execution even after you close your browser. Note that there are no guaranteed performance specifications. Google CoLab says that they have to be flexible on that to ensure that they provide adequate support for their paid subscribers while still providing free services. So they claim they need some flexibility to support that. Here we're looking at Paperspace Gradient. Paperspace is a cloud computing service, and Gradient is their machine learning offering, which includes notebooks, Jupyter Notebooks. So I'll go ahead and sign into my account. And here we are logged in, and I have a few existing projects, and let's go ahead and create a new project. So create a project, and it's given me a nice optional name there. Notice that there are several entry points, they call it. Notebooks if you want to create notebooks, or workflows if you want to do something more extensive, which does full machine learning workflow, such as gathering data, cleaning data, training network, etc., and then deployment if you actually want to prepare models for deploying in production setting. Anyway, we'll just do notebooks here. So here we are creating a new notebook. As you can see, there are a number of runtime templates that they provide, which include the various packages you need for whatever particular kind of operation you want to do. For example, perhaps you just want Jupyter Notebook, or maybe you want PyTorch, TensorFlow, or FastAI for one of the machine learning packages. We're going to do FastAI for this one. And choosing that template helps select the machine that you choose. We're going with a free one, and we'll go ahead and start the notebook. So the machine has started, and we can see that with this template, a number of notebooks are available from the FastAI deep learning training course. And we'll have a look at one of these. And we can see some code, some text. So to get a little bit of a cleaner interface here, I'll create a new file. And this file is a notebook. And we'll change this to Markdown. So this is a Markdown cell, and we'll add another cell. For code. We'll execute it. And we'll add some more code. And show how we can import one of the machine learning packages. This is PyTorch. And it did successfully run You can see it numbered 2 now, indicating that was the second cell, the second kernel cell to run. So here are the usage tiers for Gradient. Generally for an individual user there are 3 tiers: $0 a month, $8 a month for Pro, $39 a month for Growth. The free version allows 1 member. Projects are publicly visible, 5 gigs of storage, and what they call basic instances. Pro is 1 member, although you can collaborate with another person. Projects can be private. 15 gigs of storage, what they call mid-range instances, and faster GPUs. And with the Growth, collaboration of up to 5 members, and the projects can be private, 50 gigs of storage, what they call high-end instances, and you get expert support for that tier. Here we have the Kaggle main page dashboard with a news feed showing some of the latest forum postings. Also competitions that you can test your deep learning skills against. A whole bunch of data sets that you can use for deep learning. Here are the forums, the discussions, a bunch of courses, a whole bunch of courses on Python, data analysis, machine learning, that sort of thing. And, of course, a section for code where the Jupyter Notebooks are. So let's create a new notebook. So here we are in a notebook, a new notebook. We can add a cell for code. And run it. And we can add a cell for markdown. We can also download these notebooks as normal Python notebooks and run it on traditional Jupyter Notebook. We can also change these notebooks on the Kaggle website from either the notebook style, like we're doing right now, or script style, which is like more traditional Python processing. You can switch between those modes. We can access a variety of data and machine learning packages by using import. So for example, we'll say import sklearn to import scikit-learn. We can also choose whether we use a normal CPU or a GPU or a TPU. And finally, I'm not certain about this, but I do not think Voila is supported. Again, I don't think this is an official Jupyter Notebook interface, so I suspect that Voila is not supported here. Finally, there are no pricing tiers for Kaggle. All of these features are provided for free. JetBrains is the company that provides the PyCharm Python programming IDE, and Datalore is their online Jupyter Notebook product. Here is the home screen for Datalore. Let's go ahead and create a new notebook. And as you can see, we can choose from a variety of different languages: Python, Kotlin, R, and Scala. We can do Jupyter mode or reactive mode. Reactive mode is equivalent to running like a script mode. We'll go ahead and create in Jupyter mode with Python. And here we are in Jupyter Notebook. We can enter a programming cell and run it. We can add another cell and convert it to Markdown to enter some text. These files can be exported to IPython notebook format so that they can be run on other Jupyter Python implementations. We can access a variety of data. We can access a variety of data analysis and machine learning packages through import. So we'll import pandas, for example. We can change to higher performing CPUs or GPUs, but these are paid features, not free on Datalore. And one nice feature is Voila is available as a package. Here are the pricing tiers for Datalore. There's a free community tier, which includes 120 hours of computations on a basic CPU machine, 10 gig of cloud storage, and you can also keep the machine running after you close the notebook in your web browser. But if you want GPU use, you have to go up to their professional tier. But that also includes some additional features: unlimited computation on basic CPUs, 120 hours of computation on a more powerful CPU, 20 hours of computation on GPU, and 20 gig of cloud storage. And also, machine will keep running for an unlimited time, even with the browser closed. We've done just a small sample of offerings of online Jupyter Notebook services. See this website for a much longer list of other services that are available. So this has been a short review of just a few of the Python online notebook options that are available. This can be a fast-moving field, so we definitely suggest checking out to see what other things might be available. Many have free options, so we strongly encourage trying them out to see what you like the most. We hope you have found this enjoyable and useful. We wish you happy coding.